When I was 16, my mom's boyfriend tossed my backpack into the street and said, "This isn't your house. Get lost." She just watched him slam the door. I slept behind a gas station that night. 15 years later, I heard knocking on my door at 2 a.m. I'm a 31M now, but this starts when I was 16. I'm not writing this for pity or some kind of hallmark. Look how far I've come post. Honestly, I just feel like I need to get this out of my head because it's been buzzing around in there ever since that knock at my door happened a few weeks ago. To give some context, I didn't grow up in some warm, picture-perfect family. My dad dipped before I could form actual memories, and my mom, she wasn't exactly the nurturing type. She had me young, and by the time I was in middle school, she was already cycling through boyfriends like it was a sport. I never liked most of them. They either saw me as competition for her attention or as some kind of burden that came with the package deal. But then she met Rick. He was the worst of them. Big guy, always acting like he was the alpha in every room. He wasn't the type to hit me, but he didn't need to. He had this way of making me feel like I was nothing, like I was just in the way. Every little thing I did annoyed him. If I left my shoes near the door, if I made too much noise grabbing cereal, if I existed too close to where he was sitting, he'd throw these comments out, like, "When are you moving out already?" Or, "You eat more than you're worth." I'd look at my mom, hoping she'd stick up for me, but she never did. She'd just sigh and tell me to not start. The night everything blew up, I had just come back from school. It was fall, the air had that sharp, cold bite, and I remember being exhausted from football practice. I had my backpack slung over one shoulder, and I was just hoping to grab some food, take a shower, and crash. I opened the door and immediately saw Rick sitting on the couch, beer in hand, watching TV like he always did. Mom was in the kitchen, cooking something. I didn't even say anything, just started walking toward my room. That's when Rick called out, "Hey, you planning on paying rent anytime soon?" I thought he was joking, so I gave this half laugh and kept walking. But he wasn't kidding. He stood up, grabbed my backpack right off my shoulder, and tossed it out the front door. It hit the concrete, and I remember hearing the sound of my water bottle clanking against the sidewalk. I froze, just standing there, staring at him like, what the hell just happened? Then he said it, word for word. "This isn't your house. Get lost." My chest went hot, like all the air just got punched out of me. I looked at my mom, because obviously, this had to be a joke. There was no way she was just gonna let this happen. But she didn't move. She just stood there with the spatula in her hand, her face blank, like she was pretending not to see it. Then Rick slammed the door shut. I stood outside for maybe a full minute, just staring at that door, waiting for her to come out, to tell me it was a misunderstanding, to at least hand me my stuff properly. But nothing. So I picked up my backpack and started walking. I didn't have anywhere to go. 16, no siblings, no real friends I could crash with. I walked for hours, mostly because I didn't know what else to do and I didn't want to admit it was real. By the time it was fully dark, I ended up near this gas station off the highway. I sat behind it, against the wall, with my backpack as a pillow. The concrete was cold, and the smell of gasoline made me nauseous, but I didn't care. I remember pulling my hoodie tight around me and thinking, if I just close my eyes, maybe I'll wake up in my bed tomorrow and this'll all be a dream. But it wasn't. That night was the first of many. I bounced around after that, sometimes couch surfing with classmates when they'd let me, sometimes sneaking into the school gym to shower and sleep on the bleachers. I got good at hiding how bad things were, because once people know you're that kid with nowhere to go, they start treating you different. Teachers either pity you or stop expecting anything from you. Friends stop inviting you places because you're a reminder of something too real, too depressing. And my mom, she didn't call. Not once. No text. No, "Are you okay?" She let Rick's word be final. That broke me more than the homelessness did. Like, yeah, sleeping behind a gas station sucks, but realizing your own mom would rather keep a guy like Rick happy than keep her kid safe, that does something to you. You stop believing in the whole family is forever thing. You stop expecting anyone to catch you when you fall. The only reason I didn't drop out was because of one teacher, Mr. Halpern. He was this grumpy old history teacher, the kind of guy who always looked like he hated his job. But one day he pulled me aside and said, "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world, kid." I almost broke down right there, but I just nodded. He didn't press me, but he started letting me hang out in his classroom after school. Little things, like giving me extra granola bars or letting me nap on the couch in the back, when he knew I was dead tired. He didn't treat me like a charity case, and that probably saved me. Fast forward, I did graduate. Barely. And I worked my ass off after that, bouncing between crappy jobs until I could afford some stability. I built myself piece by piece, brick by brick, because nobody else was going to do it for me. And for 15 years, I didn't hear from my mom. Not a text, not a call, nothing. I told myself she was dead to me. I learned to live like she never existed. Then a few weeks ago, at 2 a.m., I heard knocking on my door. The knocking at 2 a.m. wasn't the polite kind. It was frantic, uneven, like whoever was out there couldn't decide if they wanted to be heard or not. I remember sitting up in bed, my heart already pounding before I even made it to the door. You live the kind of life I lived, and late-night knocks make your brain go straight to worst-case scenarios. Cops, someone hurt, someone you used to know dragging their drama to your doorstep. I pattered across the apartment, the wooden floor creaking under my feet. My place isn't huge, one bedroom in a middle-of-the-road neighborhood, but it's mine. Bought with my money. My furniture. My food in the fridge. My locks on the door. It's the first space in my entire life where I've felt safe. And even then, at 2 a.m. with that knocking, it didn't feel safe at all. When I opened the door, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked smaller. That was my first thought. Smaller and older than she should have. Her hair was grayer than I remembered, tied back in a messy knot. Her jacket was oversized, probably a thrift store find. And her eyes, I don't even know how to describe them. Like a mix of panic and shame. "Hi," she said. Her voice cracked a little. It was my mom. For a second, I thought I was dreaming. Like my brain was messing with me, dredging up ghosts. But then she stepped forward like she was going to cross the threshold, and instinctively, I moved my hand to block the doorframe. "What are you doing here?" My voice came out flat. No warmth, no anger, just nothing. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. She clutched at the collar of her jacket, and I noticed her hands were trembling. "Rick," he kicked me out. I just stared at her. The words didn't even register at first. It felt surreal, like the world had flipped upside down. She was standing on my porch at 2 in the morning, telling me the exact same thing that happened to me. For a long time, I didn't say anything. The only sounds were the hum of the streetlight and her breathing, quick and uneven. Memories were flashing like film reels behind my eyes, my backpack hitting the concrete, the cold behind the gas station, her face in the kitchen pretending not to see me. She finally whispered, "Please, can I come in?" And here's the messed up part. A tiny part of me wanted to slam the door, to give her that same hollow feeling she gave me. To say, "This isn't your house. Get lost." I pictured it so clearly in my head, like a script. 15 years of anger would have been justified in that one act. But I didn't. I stepped back and let her in. She shuffled past me, looking around like she was stepping into a stranger's place. In a way, she was. She sat on the edge of my couch, clutching her bag like a lifeline. She smelled faintly of cigarette smoke and some cheap floral perfume. "You've got a nice place," she said softly, eyes on the floor. I didn't answer. I just stood there with my arms crossed, trying to slow my heartbeat. This was my nightmare and my daydream rolled into one. The chance to confront her, but also the chance to see what she'd say. After a minute, she spoke again. "I'm sorry, Michael." I almost laughed. Not a happy laugh, but one of those bitter ones that come out when something's just too absurd. "You're sorry," I said. "For what exactly?" Her eyes filled up with tears. She blinked hard, like she was trying to keep them from spilling over. "For everything. For that night. For not standing up for you. For letting Rick." Her voice broke. I thought I was keeping a roof over our heads. I thought if I kept him happy, he'd take care of us. I didn't realize. I cut her off. "You didn't realize you were throwing your kid into the street." My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated how raw it sounded. She buried her face in her hands. I know. And I hate myself for it. He kicked me out tonight. Same words. Same everything. And I thought about you. I thought about how you must have felt. And she swallowed hard. I didn't know where else to go. I sat down across from her, still keeping distance between us. My hands were shaking. 15 years of silence, of building walls around myself. And here she was, breaking in without knocking down any of them. "You've been with him this whole time?" I asked. She nodded. "I stayed. Even after you left. He controlled everything. Money, who I could see, what I could do. I thought I deserved it." Hearing her say that made me feel sick. Part of me wanted to scream at her. Part of me wanted to hug her. And another part of me, the part that had slept behind that gas station, just wanted her gone. We sat in silence for a while. The clock on my microwave ticked over to 2:37 a.m. My apartment, usually so calm at night, felt like a storm zone. Finally, she whispered, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I didn't know where else to go." And that's when I realized something. She wasn't here because she wanted to reconnect. She was here because she had nowhere else. The same way I had nowhere else that night. I stood up. "You can sleep on the couch tonight," I said. My voice was steady, but inside I was chaos. "We'll figure it out in the morning." She nodded without looking at me, her shoulders shaking silently. I went back to my room, closed the door, and leaned against it. I stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours, my chest tight, my throat burning. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times, her showing up, begging forgiveness. In my head, I'd always known exactly what I'd say, exactly how I'd handle it. But in real life, it's different. It's messy. It's not some movie script where you get the perfect one-liner and closure. It's just two broken people sitting in the same room, too tired to fight, too wounded to heal. That night, I didn't sleep. When the sun came up, I hadn't closed my eyes once. I just lay there, staring at the cracks in my ceiling, listening to the faint sound of her shifting on the couch. Every now and then, I'd hear her sigh or cough, and it would yank me right back to being 16 again, lying awake, waiting for her footsteps in the hallway, hoping she'd check on me, knowing she never would. At around 7, I finally got up. I didn't want to, but the longer I stayed in my room, the more it felt like I was hiding in my own damn house. I walked out and found her sitting upright, her hands wrapped around the coffee mug I must have left on the table last night. She hadn't touched anything, hadn't even taken her shoes off. "Morning," I said flatly. She looked up quick, like she'd been caught. "Morning." Her voice was soft, shaky. I went straight to the kitchen and started the coffee maker. The smell filled the room, and for a second, I remembered the mornings when she used to hum while making breakfast. But that was a long time ago, back before Rick, back before everything got poisoned. She watched me like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to speak. Finally, she asked, "Do you always get up this early?" "Yeah," I muttered. "Old habit." Truth was, after years of working 2 jobs, then running my own thing, I just don't sleep much. My brain doesn't let me. I poured myself a cup, but didn't offer her one. I didn't know if that was petty or fair, but I wasn't in the mood to play host. She cleared her throat. "Michael, I don't want to be a burden. If you want me to leave, I'll leave. Last night, I didn't have anywhere else." Her words hit me like déjà vu. I leaned against the counter, staring at her. "Yeah, I know the feeling." She winced. She knew exactly what I was referring to. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. I could feel her wanting to fill it, to explain, but I wasn't going to let her off the hook that easy. Finally, she whispered, "I made mistakes. Big ones. And I can't undo them. But I want you to know, I think about you every day." I never stopped. That pissed me off more than if she'd said nothing. "You think about me every day?" 15 years, and not one call. Not one text. Not a birthday card. Nothing. Don't tell me you thought about me every day. Because thinking doesn't mean shit without action. My voice cracked at the end, and I hated that she heard it. Her eyes welled up again. "You're right," she said. "I should have reached out. I was scared. Ashamed. Rick, he controlled everything. I told myself you were better off without me." I slammed my mug down harder than I meant to. Coffee splashed over the rim. Better off? I was sleeping behind a gas station, Mom. The word felt foreign in my mouth. Bitter. Do you know what that's like? 16 years old, shivering on concrete, wondering if your own mom even gave a damn. Her shoulders crumpled like she'd been physically hit. She whispered, "I gave a damn. I just nothing." My throat was burning now. "You chose him. Over me. And then you stayed. For 15 years, you stayed." She didn't argue. She just nodded, tears sliding down her face. The sound of her crying filled the room, and for a second, I almost walked out. But I stayed rooted to the spot, my chest heaving. After a while, she wiped her face with the sleeve of her jacket. "I left him," she said quietly. "For good this time. I couldn't take it anymore. And when he threw me out last night, I realized I had nowhere to go. Just like you back then. And the first person I thought of was you." That stung in a way I didn't expect. I should have felt triumphant, like some twisted full-circle justice. But instead, it just made me sad. Pathetic, really. That even after everything, I was still her safety net. So what now? I asked. My voice was steadier than I felt. She hesitated. I don't know. I just need time. A place to figure things out. She glanced around the apartment, not directly at me. I don't expect you to let me stay, but I hoped. I cut her off. I don't know if I can do this. Her face fell, but she nodded like she expected it. I understand. And I believe she did. We sat there in silence again, both of us trapped in memories we couldn't shake. I sipped my coffee, trying to calm down, while she stared at her lap, twisting her hands together. Finally, I asked, where would you go, if not here? She gave a small, broken laugh. Honestly, a shelter. I've got $50 to my name. He locked me out of the accounts. I don't even have my car. He took the keys. I swallowed hard. Part of me wanted to say, not my problem. That was the truth, wasn't it? She made her bed. Now she could lie in it. But then I saw her hands, raw and shaking, and I thought of my own at 16, clutching that ratty backpack like it was all I had in the world. I sighed. You can stay, for now, but this doesn't erase anything. Don't think it does. Her head snapped up, eyes wide with gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Michael. I shook my head. Don't thank me. Just don't make me regret it. The rest of the day, the apartment felt different. Off. She barely moved from the couch, like she was afraid of taking up too much space. I kept myself busy, work emails, cleaning, anything to avoid looking at her too long. But every time I passed by, I saw her. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop seeing 16-year-old me sitting there instead. Having her in my apartment was like living with a ghost. She barely spoke, barely moved. During the day, she sat curled on the couch, thumbing through old magazines I left lying around, like she didn't want to risk touching anything that wasn't hers. At night, I'd hear her shifting in her sleep, sometimes mumbling, sometimes crying. I kept my door shut, headphones in, but I still heard it. The weirdest part was how polite she tried to be. She'd ask before pouring herself a glass of water, before turning on the TV, before using the bathroom. It was like she knew how fragile this truce was, and she didn't want to tip the scale. But the thing was, just her being there tipped it. My apartment had always been my safe place, for walls that nobody else could invade. And now, with her sitting in my living room, I felt like 16-year-old me again, waiting for the rug to get pulled out. 3 days in, I cracked. I came home from work, exhausted, and found she'd cleaned. The counters sparkled, the laundry was folded, even my shoes were lined up by the door. She was standing there with this timid smile, like she was waiting for a gold star. Thought I'd help out, she said softly. I just stared at her. Don't do that. Her smile faltered. I was just. Don't. My voice was sharper than I meant. You don't get to play house here. This isn't a reset button. You don't get to come in after 15 years and act like my mom again. Her eyes went wide, then dropped to the floor. I wasn't trying to. Yes, you were. I tossed my bag down harder than I needed to. You were trying to make yourself useful, to prove you belong here. But you don't. You forfeited that a long time ago. The silence after that was brutal. She nodded, blinking fast, and whispered, I understand. And I hated how guilty I felt saying it. Later that night, she knocked on my bedroom door. I didn't answer, but she spoke anyway. Her voice was low, muffled through the wood. I know I can't undo the past. I know I can't fix it. But I need you to understand, I was weak. Rick broke me down. He made me believe I wasn't worth anything, that I couldn't survive without him. And I let him. I chose him over you because I was scared of being alone. She paused, then said, and I hate myself for it. Every single day. I stayed quiet, staring at the ceiling, tears burning in my eyes even though I refused to let them fall. The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I told her we needed to talk. We sat at the table, mugs of coffee between us. My stomach was in knots. I can't do this long term, I said bluntly. You staying here. It's not good for me. She nodded quickly, almost too quickly. I understand. I'll find somewhere else. I just need a little time. And that's when the anger spilled out again. Do you even hear yourself? You keep saying you understand, but you don't. You don't understand what you did to me. You think showing up now, broken and homeless, gives you some kind of redemption arc? It doesn't. She flinched, but didn't argue. She just sat there, tears sliding down her face. I kept going, my voice rising. Do you know what it was like for me? 16 years old, sleeping in the damn cold, wondering if you'd even notice I was gone. Do you know how humiliating it was to see my friends' moms bringing snacks to games, cheering them on, while I sat there pretending I didn't care that mine wasn't around? Do you know how long it took me to stop hoping you'd show up? By the end, I was standing, fists clenched on the table, shaking. She covered her mouth with her hand, sobbing quietly. I do know, she choked out. Because I feel it now. Every time I close my eyes, I see you at that door. I see you walking away. And I did nothing. I let it happen. And it's the worst mistake of my life. Her words didn't make me feel better. If anything, they twisted the knife. Because part of me believed her. And part of me still wanted to scream at her until my throat bled. I turned away, pacing the kitchen. My chest felt like it was going to explode. Finally, I said, you can stay another week. That's it. After that, you need to figure out where to go. She nodded, whispering, thank you. But I didn't say it back. That week was suffocating. We avoided each other most of the time, speaking only when necessary. But every now and then, I'd catch her looking at me with this expression, like she wanted to say something but didn't dare. It was the same look she used to give Rick back when she was always waiting for his next mood swing. And that pissed me off even more, because it meant she wasn't just broken with him. She was broken with me, too. On the last night of the week, I came home late. She was sitting on the couch, waiting. There was a small duffel bag at her feet. I found a shelter downtown, she said quietly. They have space for women. I'll go there tomorrow. I stared at the bag, then at her. She looked exhausted, her face pale, eyes swollen from crying. And for the first time since she showed up, I realized something. As much as I hated her, as much as I resented every choice she made, I didn't want her to disappear into the streets the way I had. But saying that out loud felt impossible. So instead, I just muttered, all right. She nodded, clutching the strap of her bag. I'm sorry, Michael. For everything. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to hear me say it. Then she turned away, curling up on the couch, leaving me standing in the doorway of my own living room, feeling more lost than I had in years. The night before she was supposed to leave, I barely slept again. My apartment was too quiet, but at the same time, my head was so loud I couldn't get any rest. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw her face at the door that night when I was 16. Then I'd see her face again at my door now, 15 years later. Same desperation, same shame. Different side of the story. At 6 a.m., I gave up on pretending to sleep and walked into the living room. She was already awake, sitting with her duffel bag in her lap, like she was afraid someone would snatch it away. The sight hit me like a punch in the gut. You're up early, I muttered. She looked up, gave me a faint smile. Didn't really sleep. Yeah, same. For a while, we just sat there. The hum of the fridge was the only sound. I kept trying to find the words, but every version I came up with either sounded too cruel or too soft. Nothing in the middle. Finally, she broke the silence. Before I go, I need to ask you something. I braced myself. What? Do you hate me? Her voice cracked on the word hate, like she was scared to hear the answer. I should have been able to say yes. I wanted to say yes. God knows I'd earned the right. But the truth got stuck in my throat. I thought about 16-year-old me, sitting behind that gas station, staring at the stars, and wishing she would come for me. Even then, even at my lowest, I hadn't hated her. I'd hated Rick. I'd hated myself. But her? I just felt this hole where she should have been. I don't know, I finally said. My voice was hoarse. Some days I think I do. Other days, I just feel nothing. Like you died a long time ago. Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. She nodded slowly, like she deserved it. Maybe she did. Fair, she whispered. I ran a hand over my face, exhausted. Why do you even come here? Out of all the places in the world, why me? Because you're the only person who ever mattered, she said. No hesitation. No pause. Just raw. And I threw you away. I've lived with that every single day. I thought maybe if I could just see you again, hear your voice, maybe I could feel human again. That broke something in me. Not forgiveness, not closure, but something. My anger, sharp and burning for 15 years, flickered. Not gone, but different. Like the fire was running out of oxygen. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. You know, when I was out there, homeless, alone, I used to tell myself that one day, you'd regret it. That one day, you'd knock on my door and beg to be let in. And I'd slam it in your face. She winced. But now that it's real, I continued, it doesn't feel like victory. It just feels empty. Like no matter what I do, it's not gonna fix what you broke. Her voice was so small. I know. We sat in silence again. My chest felt like it was splitting in half. Finally, I said, you can't stay here forever. I meant that. But I'm not sending you to a shelter either. I'll pay for a motel. A few weeks. Give you time to figure your shit out. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. Michael, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I snapped, then softened. I want to. Not for you. For me. So I can live with myself. She covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. Thank you. God, thank you. Don't thank me, I muttered. Just don't waste it. That day, I drove her to the motel. It was a quiet ride, neither of us saying much. When we pulled into the parking lot, she reached for my hand. I froze for a second, then let her take it. Her grip was weak, shaky. I love you, she whispered. My throat tightened so hard I thought I wouldn't be able to breathe. For 15 years, I'd wanted to hear those words. Now they just felt heavy, complicated. I know, I said. And that was all. She checked into the motel, and I drove away without looking back. It's been 3 weeks since then. She calls sometimes. I don't always answer. When I do, the conversations are short, awkward. She's trying, I think. Or at least she says she is. She found a part-time job at a diner nearby. She's looking for a room to rent. I don't know what our future looks like. I don't know if we'll ever have the kind of relationship normal mothers and sons have. Honestly, I doubt it. Too much damage. Too many years lost. But I do know this. When she knocked on my door at 2 a.m., I had a choice. I could have repeated history. I could have slammed the door. But I didn't. And maybe that doesn't make me noble. Maybe it just makes me weak. Or maybe it means I broke the cycle. All I know is, that 16-year-old kid who slept behind a gas station would have wanted me to at least try. So I did. And that's where I'm at now.